Hello, welcome to a presentation on cultural applications. Uh, this is a one-side upgraded software presentation. The problem with culture is that it's too slippery. One minute you're on topic, and the next minute you slip into an off-topic discourse. And also it's balloonable. 1 minute you're on topic with a limited topic, and the next minute you're branching into a much larger topic. The approach that this presentation will take is that it will limit the cultural discussion to two clear problems of the drug problem and the identity politics problem. It will introduce a number of frameworks and then apply the frameworks to the problems. Recently, there has been a number of PC strategy games that are released that's a product of multiple iterations. And these strategy games are all from the policymaker's perspective, and they all are unique takes and provide some frameworks that represents something new to the policy makers' to the policymakers. One of the frameworks of Civilization 6 is the cultural representation. Culture is represented as an aura that emanates from a city. So here is a city, and the aura grows or shrinks due to the cultural buildings, and it expands naturally. So this represents a boundary of a nation when you have multiple cities. The benefits of this representation of culture is that it represents it from the policymaker's perspective, and culture is also represented as an abstract quality, quantity. Another framework of culture could be sound. The loudness of the sound, it reverberates in a year or a decade. Some cultural movements do not sustain past 1 year, but some cultural movements last for decades or more. There's an element of resistance to the sound. And another framework could be the fabric. We can envision a nation's culture as a quilt with normal wear and tear on the quilt. So each patch represents a different culture, and at the edges some weaves needs repair. This framework is nice because there's an element of effort to it. You actually have to do the work to repair the quote. It won't repair itself. Some of the other cultural frameworks is that there's a scholarly field, cultural anthropology, and we can study the history of culture via documentaries and books. And the cultural format pluralist is something TVs and movies because it's easiest to understand, games and music, and unfortunately books has sort of fallen off the cultural quote. Movies like Trading Places and Freaky Friday are cultural mixers that mixes two different cultures. It tends to air out grievances constructively, and it lets the viewers view the self from an outside angle, and gains a new perspective both on your own culture and also the culture being mixed. A slight detour to physical cultural mixers due to the disproportionate weight of physical proximity. What does physical community centers look like if we build them to the mall scale? Another section is government involvement. We can have a healthy debate on this, but preferably the government involvement is not laissez-faire. For rich national quotes such as the United States, it's preferable that at least the government tries to work to repair some of the wear and tear. And also, Theodore Roosevelt and other government officials were a knowledgeable cultural participant who wrote books and as a private citizen that contributes to the cultural quilt. The next section is counterculture. It started from the 1970s as a very legitimate movement, but as the countercultural movement matured through the decades, perhaps it went too far. It is the nature of the loud cultures to expand and the quieter cultures to contract. But this trend might have gone too far. Just like climate change is a runaway trend, so we have a runaway cultural trend as well. The next section is applications, where it tries to apply some of these frameworks to the problems. The first is a push with red formants, and the last section is a pull with frontier and arcades. Previously, it was a healthy debate between the TV show, that 70s show, between Eric, the son Foreman, and Red, the dad Foreman. Now, it seems that there is no debate anymore. Everybody is Eric Foreman, and there are fewer Red Foremans around. In one of the DVD commentaries, the producers of the show mentioned how they carefully modulated the actor who's portraying Red Foreman to make him cool to the youngsters. They would say, "Oh, you're doing it too much," and he was tone it down. And this careful modulation is nice because the youngsters can relate to his perspective of, "I don't want it in the house, I just don't want it." They might not agree with it, but they can relate to it because of this modulation. Also, as a framework, we can consider a cultural landscape or a cultural radar. And with the recent decades, there are fewer and fewer Red Foremans and Marty Cranes on that radar. Poe with the Frontier and Arcade, the youngsters have a lot of energy, and the channels of that youth energy is getting scarcer due to a number of things, but particularly due to the disappearance of the frontier. Usually, the youth would dream about going to the frontier or actually go to the frontier to make out a living or just spend their useful energy there. Another sort of channel to the useful energy is the arcade. The disproportionate weight of physical proximity, usually in the 90s, if you go to an arcade, you would find a lot of youngsters standing around, and it's open to all groups. Everybody is standing around. Sometimes a middle-aged person or a 10-year-old youth would compete, and everybody would get in line, and it's a nice experience. It's a path of advancement, and it's also a point of aspiration. This presentation is released to the public domain. Thousands of presentations and conversations about cultural applications will lead to the complex emergence of new solutions. Every repetition contributes. It only takes 10 minutes to start your own presentation. Please feel free to download the presentation in the description, and thank you very, very much, and have a nice day.